Hello and welcome back to another session on cryptography and network security. In today's session, we'll be trying to understand SSL Secure Socket Layer 3.0 and Transport Layer Security 1.2, what these protocols are and how they are used. So the prerequisite for this session is you should have gone through my lecture on X.509 certificate and what it is. So you should know what a digital certificate is and what is RSA, encryption and decryption, what is a public key and private key. So you should have gone through all these lectures to start with this lecture. So I'll be leaving the reference links of these lectures in the description below. Have a look at it and then come to this lecture video. So in the last lecture, we looked at all these things. See, I'm owning codespindle.com and I first generate a public key and private key, and then I use this public key and other information for applying CSR, certificate signing request, and that is actually sent to an intermediate certificate authority. The certificate authority has got its own digital certificate and a private key, and the certificate authority is actually verified by a root certificate authority which issues a digital certificate to this intermediate CA, and this intermediate certificate authority, after verifying the contents of your CSR, after establishing your identity, it will be issuing you a digital certificate for the domain. So this domain has a digital certificate, an X.509 certificate we say, and a private key. And we also have our web browser, the client from which we are going to connect to codespindle.com, and in the web browser's trusted store we have the root CA's public key which comes pre-installed in these trusted stores. So we have taken an in-depth look about all these things in our previous lecture video on X.509. Please have a look at it so that it's easy for you to understand this specific lecture. From the web browser, we'll be contacting codespindle.com and there will be a connection established, and there will be a lot of packets transferred between the web browser and the server. The server will be sending some packets and the web browser will be sending some packets to the server, and this entire communication is governed by protocols, namely SSL 3.0, TLS 1.2 and TLS 1.3. So in this session, we'll have an understanding of these two protocols, Secure Socket Layer 3.0 and TLS 1.2, what is that these protocols do and how they are different from each other. In the next session, we'll understand what is TLS 1.3. Now let us take a look at SSL 3.0. Let us understand this entire protocol using an visualization. So SSL 3.0, how it works. So we have our codespindle.com domain, and for this we have obtained a digital certificate, X.509 certificate, which contains the public key, and also a private key is generated for this specific domain. And we have our client wherein our web browser is running on this client, and this client has got its trusted store which contains the public key of the root CAs. Now this entire protocol starts from the client. Will establish communication with the domain with an hello message, client hello. And what we are sending here as part of this message is we will send the version. That is, what is the version? Say it's SSL 3.0. That is the version. And the client takes a 32-bit random number and 32-byte random number. I'm sorry. And the supported cipher suites, like what all cipher suites that is supported by this specific client is sent, and the compression algorithms. So this data is sent to the server, and what the server does is it sends a reply with a server hello. So what is present as part of the server hello message is the selected version, say that is SSL 3.0, and a 32-byte random number from the server. So this is a random number generated by the server and sent. And the selected cipher suite, say the client sends a list of cipher suites that it supports. The server will select, like say AES GCM, that is supported by the server, will be selected and sent back to the client. And the compression methods, this is actually null. It's not used right now. So we have a client hello and then we have a server hello that's coming back, and this is what is shared. The next step is the server, the domain actually sends its own x.509 certificate. So that is the certificate it sends. And it also sends the intermediate CA x.509 certificate, the CA which issued the domain certificate. That CA's x.509 certificate is also shared with the client. And then the server sends a server done message. So all these steps come under a handshake phase, handshake protocol in SSL 3.0. First, the client sends an hello, which version of SSL, a 32-byte random number, and the cipher suite supported by the client, and the compression algorithm supported. The server replies with a server hello. It comes with the selected version, say SSL 3.0, and a 32-bit random number from the server, and the selected cipher suite from the list of ciphers that the client has sent, and the compression algorithm. So normally you will find the value for compression algorithms to be null. And after that, the server sends its own x.509 digital certificate. It also sends the certificate authorities x.509 certificate. So the certificate authority is the one which issued the server's digital certificate. So these things are sent. Next, a server done message is also sent. Now, what the client does here is it verifies the certificate. So it first verifies the domain certificate. So for that, it uses the public key of the CA. So there's a digital signature here. We have discussed this verification in the previous lecture on x.509. Please visit that. So it will use the public key of the CA to verify the x.509 certificate here, because this x.509 domain certificate contains a signature signed by the private key using the private key of the CA. So the client, the web browser, uses the public key of the CA to verify this domain's x.509 certificate. Next, it uses the public key of the root CA to verify the intermediate CA's digital certificate. So the chain of trust is established and the site is considered to be secure after this verification. So server done message comes up. So at this stage, what is that we are having here is the client has got its own random number which it has sent. It has also received a random number from the server. Likewise, the server contains a random number that it has received from the client and a random number that it has generated. So these things exist on both the sides. What happens next? So next what happens is the x.509 certificate, that is what I was talking to you about. The verification happens on x.509 certificate and the intermediate CA x.509 certificate that the client has received. I've explained this, but I've also given these steps. So what happens is, first, using the public key of the CA, verify the x.509 certificate of the domain. That is done. The next step is using the public key of the root CA that is available in the trusted store, verify the certificate of the intermediate CA. So chain of trust is established. So after verification of the chain of trust, what happens next is the client takes a 48-byte random number. So this random number is going to be encrypted. So this random number is encrypted. Actually, this random number is the pre-master secret key. So that is encrypted. And for encrypting this, what is happening is it will be taking this x.509 certificate which the server sent us, right? From that, it will extract the public key and then it will use that public key for encrypting this specific random number. So this is encrypted using the public key present in the x.509 certificate which was sent to us, and that is extracted and used for encrypting this random number. So this 48-byte random number is the pre-master secret, and this random number is transferred to our server. And what the server does is the server can decrypt that encrypted random number. So how it decrypts that encrypted random number is it will use its own private key. So private key can be used for decryption here. So at this stage, both the server and the client has got a 48-byte random number, which is the pre-master secret. I hope you are clear with this. Next step, what happens with this pre-master secret? So at this stage, you can see the client has got its random number, the server's random number, and the pre-master secret of 48 bytes. The server has got its client random number, the server random number, and 48 bytes secret pre-master key, which it has received from the client. The next steps are the client random number plus server random number plus the pre-master secret key. So these three things are given to a pseudo random function to generate the master secret. So this happens on both the sides. So a master secret is generated on both the sides, and from the master secret we generate four different keys. One is the client write MAC key. This is used for providing data integrity for messages sent by the client. So it's used for generating the MAC. Whenever a MAC is generated from the client to the server, this key is used. Server write MAC key. So whenever a MAC is generated and sent from the server to the client, this key is used. Client write encryption key. So whenever a packet is encrypted and sent, client write encryption key is used. So direction is from the client to the server. And server write encryption key is used whenever a packet is sent encrypted from the server to the client. So for encryption of the packet, server write encryption key is used. For decryption of the packet received from the server write encryption key is used. So it's a symmetric key encryption. The same key is used for encryption and decryption. So when the packet moves from the client to the server, for encryption and decryption, we use client write encryption key. When the packet moves from the server to the client, for encryption and decryption, we use server write encryption key. So at this stage, after this stage, both the client and the server has these four different keys, which was generated from the master secret by expanding it. And how do we generate the master secret? By passing the client random number, pseudo server random number, and the pre-master secret to a pseudo random function. So that nearly completes our handshake phase. Let me erase or link on the slide. So after this, change cipherspec message goes from the client to the server, indicating that from now on every message will be encrypted and sent, and a client finished message is sent. So what is client finished messages? The entire handshake information, that history is taken, and then an hash is created using the client write MAC key, and then it is encrypted using the client write encryption key, and then it is sent. So that can be decrypted and verified using the client write MAC key and client write encryption key on the server. Likewise, the server also sends a change cipherspec indicating that from now on every packet that's going to come will be encrypted according to the keys that we have agreed upon. And the server finished message comes, which is an encrypted hash of all the messages happened during the handshake. And for encryption, we use the server write encryption key. For computation of the MAC, we use the server write MAC key. So with that, we come to an end of the handshake phase in SSL 3. The next phase is the record protocol or the record phase. We'll see how the packets, actual packets, data packets are transferred from the web browser to the domain. So what is happening here is we have all the keys set. Now every piece of data that is sent from the web browser to the domain and the domain to the web browser will be following these steps. First, and all these steps come under the record protocol. First, we'll break the packets, we'll fragment the packets such that the packets are usually 16 kilobytes or less. So fragmentation happens. If the packet is very large, we're going to break it down. And the second step is MAC calculation. So hash is created using the write MAC key. See, if the packet is going from the client to the server, the client write MAC key will be used for computation of the MAC. If the packet is going from the server to the client, then this client server write MAC key will be used for the calculation of the MAC. The third step is encryption. So data that is going from the client to the server will be encrypted. So the data plus the authentication code MAC is encrypted using the client write encryption key if the data travels from the client to the server. Likewise, the packets that are moving from the server to the client will be encrypted and decrypted using the server write encryption key. So finally, an header is attached to the packet before it is sent, that is containing the content type, version and length. So every packet is fragmented, MAC is calculated, then the packet is encrypted along with the MAC and then sent by attaching an header to the corresponding party. So both these parties encrypt and decrypt using these four keys. See, always remember, when the direction of the packet is from the client to the server, the client write MAC key and the client write encryption key is used, whereas on the server, decryption happens using the same keys, client write MAC key and client write encryption key. Whereas when the packet travels from the server to the client, what keys are used for generation of the MAC? Server write MAC key is used. For generation of the encrypted packets, the server write encryption key is used. And for decryption on the client side, the server write MAC key and the server write encryption keys are used. So this is how the record protocol works. So we have taken a look at Secure Socket Layer 3.0. See, this protocol got obsolete and then it was preceded by TLS 1.2. What is TLS 1.2? It is Transport Layer Security, and it is the cryptographic protocol that succeeded SSL. So SSL 3.0 got succeeded using TLS 1.2 and it became the global standard. So you can see it became the global standard for securing internet communication for over a decade. So now we have more newer versions like TLS 1.3, but still TLS 1.2 remains the workhorse of the web because of its balance between security and compatibility. So when you try to compare TLS 1.2 Transport Layer Security which succeeded SSL, these are the parameters. See, SSL now is deprecated. We use TLS 1.2 widely. So what are the key things? See, the entire workflow from the client hello to server hello, client finish to server finished, everything is the same except for the choice of algorithms and certain protocols. See, here the hash functions used in SSL 3.0 was MD5 and SHA-1, whereas in TLS 1.2 it's more secure SHA-256 and SHA-512. And for key derivation, we are talking about the pseudo random function. We are using a fixed MD5 plus SHA-1 construction, but here we use more flexible HMAC and SHA-256 version. And the finished messages were fixed 36 byte. Here it is negotiable. Typically SHA-256 is used. The encryption, here we used MAC, then we'll encrypt. Here it is an AEAD, that is authenticated encryption. The encryption itself provides the authentication. So while you encrypt the packet, the MAC will be computed and then it will also be encrypted together. So that is AEAD, authenticated encryption of associated data. And padding vulnerability, SSL 3.0 was prone to padding attacks, whereas TLS 1.2 is more secure. It is immune to padding based attacks. So certificates, here it supports basic X.509, here it supports X.509 with SHA-256 and RSA signatures. So it has very limited error code, it has highly descriptive error codes. So these are the basic differences between TLS 1.2 and SSL 3.0. Otherwise, the entire flow remains the same with respect to Handshake and record protocols that we have seen in our previous slides. So I hope you are able to follow what is Secure Socket Layer 3.0 and how it is different from TLS 1.2. We have understood the entire step-by-step process on how things work with respect to these protocols. So we'll take a look at TLS 1.3 in our next session, which is a more newer version of TLS 1.2, and we'll see how it works. That's it for this session. I hope you are able to follow this. If you have any questions, you can leave those questions in the comments below. I'll be answering those questions, and I'll be catching up with TLS 1.3 in the next session. Take care.